what we are doing in DCU to foster, attract and retain deep tech talents. And today I will be talking on behalf of myself. I'm the Dean of Strategic Learning Innovation, but also my colleague Kieran Dunn, who's the Transversal Skills Director, and Mairead Baheel, who is the Director of Microcredentials Strategy and Innovation. And DCU is the second institution from Dublin, Ireland that you are hearing from in this meeting today. And unlike our colleagues, we are not an old institution as old as Trinity, or as indeed where we are here today in Salamanca. So we are 42 years of age, same age as me. So I consider myself part of DCU from the very beginning. And we are focused very strongly on application of knowledge and our interactions with enterprise. And so what I want to share with you today are examples of how those ongoing and deep interactions are leading to increased innovation from the very beginning of our students' journey with us. So the two projects I want to talk to you around, first is DCU Futures, which is how we are radically reimagining our undergraduate curriculum, and then Microcredentials, which is where DCU is involved in that conversation, which I'm sure you're all part of as well at national and international level. I should say the two projects are they're fully funded from private industry, from a competitive funding call. So DCU Futures was funded to the tune of almost 20 million. Microcredentials is a national project which was funded to the same extent, and DCU are leading that project nationally. And this is an image by the Swedish digital artist Erik Johansson, which sums up very strongly what it is we are trying to do in DCU. So we are asking ourselves fundamentally the question, in this world which is increasingly unscripted, where knowledge of itself is not the tradable capital that it has been with the advance of phones and everybody being able to look up information at the touch of a button. And there is unprecedented technological and social change. So how can we let our colleagues thrive, our students and our graduates thrive in that space? And for us, this image sums it up, because the student, you can see, has traveled a defined path, but from coming to DCU with a sense of purpose, that student is not encumbered by the path they have come to date, but they can imagine and realize a future which is of value to them and to society as a whole. And that's our underlying premise for what we are doing across these two projects. So fundamentally, DCU Futures looks at the next evolution in what our students are going to learn, how they learn, and fundamentally embedding transversal skills. And Kieran, the Transversal Skills Director, his sole responsibility is to ensure that that happens across all the programs that we're doing in a far more deliberate and detailed manner than we have to date. And so we have launched our biggest ever suite of new programs, which you can see are at those emerging nexus of new interdisciplinary spaces that are emerging, again, to do what our colleagues yesterday talked about in terms of innovation sparking at those interdisciplinary nexus. So we see subjects such as psychology and disruptive technology being co-taught in the one undergraduate program. Similarly, our BSc in Global Challenges is co-taught by electronic engineers and colleagues from law and government, so that our students will be able to both design and prototype technological solutions, but also have a detailed understanding of the societal, political, economic scenarios, environments in which they hope to deploy these technologies, so that they have that rounded experience. So these are all our new programs that we are launching over the last 2 years. It's our biggest ever launch of programs which look forward so strongly. And how we're teaching them is also changing. So I said we focused on engaging with industry, and so we have industry involved not just in our work placements, but in the co-development, co-creation and co-delivery and co-assessment of our programs and our modules within there. We are also looking not at online learning like the bad dream that everybody now views we had during the COVID pandemic, but there are affordances that we can leverage. I'm a chemist myself. We can let our students play with very dangerous chemicals in the online space and cause explosions and things that health and safety would not allow me to ever do in real life, for example. In engineering, we look at cyber physical twins and technologies developing in that space and creating that baseline for the deep tech type of skills that we hope that this talent then can go on to pursue beyond their bachelor. The third component, which is really exciting for us and a true departure for us, is that in all of those 10 programs that you just saw, there will be a transversal skills development through them. So fundamentally, this will be developing those human-centric skills that will allow our students to thrive in what is becoming an increasingly automated world. And these are examples across the four. We have 4 pillars, or ways of thinking, ways of working, tools for working, and tools for thriving. And all students from engineering through to business, through to chemistry, must have opportunities to develop those transversal skills and to evidence them and to build their portfolio from them. And all their students will graduate with both their discipline transcript and their transversal skills transcript, which will be unique to them at the end of their programs. And the DNA is to highlight that these skills will be woven through the fabric of their discipline degree. So it's not a separate module in transversal skills that students will take, but rather they will develop these skills alongside their discipline depth skills in each of the modules that we are doing. So we're very excited about this huge departure for us at such scale. And it is really the scale of DCU Futures and then the 20 million euros that we are primarily using for human capital, to hire new colleagues, to hire support staff, to be able to increase our capacity to be able to teach like this. The second piece I want to quickly talk to you around is our micro-credential journey. And obviously we have the definition from Europe for micro-credentials being that the record of the learning outcomes from a small volume of learning that have been assessed against transparent and clearly defined standards. And that's the definition that we use for our part of the conversation. As I say, I'm sure you're all involved in similar conversations. So this is DCU's experience. So the first thing that we spent an awful lot of time doing is what Mairead calls to bring order, to explore from a relevancy point of view, what do we mean by micro-credentials and where do they fit within the landscape of the different offerings that we bring? So we would view our micro-credentials as being credit-bearing and unbundled and stackable, but they are formal and semi-formal, but they're accredited learning. So they are different to our short courses, which we also offer, and our badges, but they have clearly defined criteria. And in the paper that we've submitted, you'll see we've gone into those criteria in more detail, but they sit within that space. So in terms of the type of micro-credentials that we are developing, I was yesterday, our colleague from Slovenia, talking about the challenges of teaching through the national Slovenian language. We don't have that same requirement in Ireland, but we do in DCU have one of our schools which teaches finance through Irish, because it is a language that we still use in Ireland and is very important to us. So we have one of our micro-credentials is around introduction to our language and our culture in that space, but responding directly to conversations with industry to address a gap from an upskilling perspective that was important to them. We developed our Fintech, for example, as one of our innovative micro-credentials in this space. We are also involved in European Universities Alliance, and we are leading with Tampere in Finland the micro-credentials aspect. So that's the European Consortium for Innovative Universities. So there's a thread you see going through what DCU likes to get involved with from an innovation perspective. Critical for us is that those micro-credentials must also be co-created with industrial and societal partners. And in ECIU, we are building the processes, the platforms, but also from that assessment perspective, from that formal assessment of learning, to ensure that we have the quality assurance components in place. So this is an example of what we are doing in terms of micro-credentials at ECIU and informing the European conversation in that regard as well. So that's our whistle-stop tour through the innovations in teaching at an undergraduate and at a lifelong learning space that we're doing in DCU. And we would really welcome any conversations either in person or via email after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.